Let's go to the UK, where Prime Minister Liz Truss and Chancellor Kwasi Kwarteng are set to meet officials from the Office for Budget Responsibility. This comes as they are facing pressure to set out their medium-term fiscal strategy sooner than planned in order to calm market nerves. Our UK correspondent Olly Barratt is watching this closely, joining us now live from London. Olly, good afternoon. Welcome to Today. Thank you very much for your times. I guess this was bound to happen after what we saw a few days ago when the sterling really took a pounding after the announcement of tax cuts by Liz Truss's new government.
Exactly right. I mean, what is happening here is that Liz Truss, the Prime Minister, and Kwasi Kwarteng, the Finance Minister, are trying to shore up the credibility of their growth plan, as they call it, which was announced towards the end of last week and led to all those jitters on international markets. Now, I'll give you a bit of background on the Office for Budget Responsibility, which normally might sound to you like an incredibly boring organisation, but it's designed to provide independent forecasting to UK finance ministers so that they can look ahead at things like the levels of public spending and borrowing and deficit and debt, and therefore they can base their own decisions on that guidance from the OBR. The idea is that it makes all governments really as responsible as possible when making some of those huge decisions. When we had that emergency growth plan set out by the government last week, the OBR did not take part, and we know that Chancellor Kwasi Kwarteng was under pressure to get some kind of forecast from the OBR in. Well, he didn't do so. Then we saw all that anxiety on international markets in the days that followed him unveiling that mini-budget, that so-called mini-budget. Well, now he and the Prime Minister have been meeting with the OBR as they start the process of getting some of those medium-term forecasts in place so that the government can commit to a medium to long-term fiscal plan and strategy which can retain the confidence of the international markets. So this body, the OBR, which, as I say, sometimes can sound a little bit dull, has really become absolutely crucial to the future of the government and its whole economic strategy.
Yes, because, hey, you need that certainty. How's the pound doing now? Has it recovered somewhat against the American dollar?
It has actually. It's been on a pretty good run today, particularly on international markets against the US dollar, up to around $1.11 now. It hit highs of $1.12 earlier in the day, which is historically low for the pound against the US dollar, but actually in recent terms is in relative health. It is back to where it was now before the Chancellor's mini-budget, so he will certainly feel that some of those nerves are calming on international markets. That said, we are still seeing very high borrowing costs for the UK government being pointed to by international investors. That has implications, of course, going forward for the government's economic strategy, because if it has to pay more to borrow, that has implications on how much it can spend, for example, on public services, particularly in an environment where it is still saying that it plans to stick to those tax cuts that it unveiled last week.
Finally, this hour, Olly, for you. Queen Elizabeth II reigned for 70 years and her face was on the notes and coins of England. And now that's changing because there's a new guy in town, King Chaarkes III, and his face who's going to be now on those notes and coins.
Exactly right, and I think it's one of those changes that, of course, we all knew was going to come, but for many British people is going to be quite a change for them. They've spent their whole lives seeing the Queen's image on their notes and coins, and now for the first time the Royal Mint has released the first versions of what the coins are going to look like going forward, and that will move into the notes as well that are in circulation too. So the Royal Mint has produced this first image of the side of King Charles III's face on the first coin. It's actually a limited edition £5 thing that we're seeing at first, but this will eventually become what we see everywhere as those notes and coins in circulation with the Queen's image on start to move out of circulation. You'll still be able to use them for quite some time yet, but once they drop out of circulation, they'll be replaced really with that supply of coins and notes with that image of King Charles on.
Olly Barratt, thank you very much for joining us.